welcome back to another chapter of It Hurts the Hope by Inquilatory on AO3. Chapter 15, Memories of What We Lost. She's not sure how long it's been since she's truly let herself rest. For the past several years, she's been running a long, obsessive chase that never seems to end, passing between worlds and jumping through the void so often it's muscle memory at this point. And perhaps even worse, she's been doing it alone. She visits the others when she can, of course. They're still her family as well, even if they've moved on and settled down on different worlds, leaving the past behind like they tell her to do. "You're only hurting yourself more," they tell her whenever she visits, however briefly, crashing on couches or in guest bedrooms, and refusing to share details of her journey. "You're wasting away for a useless cause." She knows that she is. She looks terrible. The exhaustion weighs down on her limbs and head at every waking moment, and the air of the overworld is starting to feel too heavy. She's spent so much time between worlds that she's nearly forgotten what it's like to feel solid ground beneath her feet. Her eyes are perpetually ringed with dark shadows, and the ocean blue irises have lost their shine. She doesn't even bother to brush her hair anymore, instead keeping it in a mussy bun of tangled brown locks. Her skin is pale, and she's worn and weathered from time and void travel. But she can't stop. It's been years, and yet she keeps going, keeps chasing. She visits public servers and private worlds, spends days in great libraries filled with old manuscripts, and talks to whoever won't shut the door in her face. She asks too many questions and sticks her nose where it shouldn't go, and sometimes pays the price. She's too wily to get caught, though. She's amassed a world of knowledge, learned all that she could. Her journey is thick, Her journal is thick, tied shut with twine, and stuffed with hastily scrawled notes and information. It's falling apart at the seams. She's quite sure that there's no living being that knows more about this than she does. None of it helps. It's all worthless. And the only reason she's still going is because she's positive that someday it'll work. Someday her chase will end and she can finally rest. "You have to move on," they tell her, just like they all did years and years ago. But she can't move on. Not until she knows what happened to her brother. Alright. Fall straightens up from the crafting table and tosses Zelka a wooden sword, lifting up an identical one in her hands. She grimaces at it like it's done something to displease her. "I hate wooden tools," she grumbles, and turns to Zelka, who had just barely managed to catch the sword without it impaling his leg. He wraps his hands around the hilt and straightens up, wings resettling on his back. After getting back from the desert, Scar had messaged False to ask about combat training for Zelka. False had immediately replied with yes, absolutely, and given coordinates for some kind of training ground. Zelka had flown over there with Scar when the sun had come up, doing loops around him with his more versatile wings, laughing every time Scar's head craned around to follow his flight path. Now it's just Zelka and False, standing on a well-built, expansive, clearly meant for training combat, and Zelka wonders how peaceful the hermits really are. "Who built this?" he asks, as False pulls off her brown leather jacket and tosses it aside. The back of the fabric cut and sewn to accommodate her massive wings. "Etho and Cleo," False replies, straightening her red and white tank top and stretching her arms over her head. "It's mainly their place, but they let others use it as long as we they don't blow anything up. Blow anything up? Zelqua echoes, and Foltz gives him a jagged grin that doesn't reassure him at all. TNT warfare is pretty popular, she says casually, then jabs the wooden sword into the air a few times. Even with the crude weapon, it's clear she's a practiced fighter. Zelqua is beginning to wonder if this is a good idea. You ready? Yeah. He wonders if he should also pull off his heavy sweater and stay in the gray shirt underneath. But Foltz doesn't give him much time to consider that idea and gestures with her sword, showing where she wants Zelqua to stand. Okay? We're assuming you don't have any combat training, since whatever you do know would fit neatly into that can't remember, don't know puzzle that is your life right now. So we're going to start from the basics and work our way up. Tell me if you are feeling tired, dizzy, hungry, fed up, about to spontaneously combust, or flying to the stratosphere. That's the only kind of introduction Zelqua gets, and they'll have to do, because Foltz is already moving on to other matters and not waiting for questions. In a way, Foltz's straightforward and heads-on collision teachings are exactly what he needs. His feet instinctually remember the positions to fall into, and his hands tighten around the sword in a way that feels both new and old at the same time. He doesn't need a masterclass in fighting, he soon learns, but a reminder. Foltz walks him through every aspect of basic combat, showing him how to disarm an opponent or where to aim to kick someone's legs out from under them. She also goes through several combat maneuvers for avians specifically, and Zelqua's wings are starting to feel sore from all the movement. At some point, when Foltz deems they are ready for a short sparring attempt, Etho and Cleo arrive at the training grounds, only pausing briefly when they notice the two avians already there. Zelqa stills, remembering what Foltz had said about Etho and Cleo building this place, and he wonders if they're supposed to leave. The flat side of a wooden blade gently clocks him on the side of his head, and Foltz's cheerful voice pulls him back into the fight. The fight he just lost. You can't get distracted in a fight, Zell. Come on, let's go again. Zelqa lets out a quick breath and nods, settling into a stance and raising his sword. Etho and Cleo set their bags down on the other side of the training grounds, but don't pull out their weapons, sitting down to observe Foltz and Zelqa. The attention should make him nervous, but as he shakes out his hands and wings, he realizes that it doesn't matter. It makes him excited. Count us in, Cleo? Foltz requests, apparently feeling Zelqua's energy and replying to it with her own, wings flicking out and back in, tense and ready. You got it, Cleo calls back cheerfully. Are the fighters ready? It sounds like a real duel. Zelqa feels a grin fight his way onto his face. Yes, he says, and Foltz echoes with a sense of her own. All right, fighters, take your places. Zelqa crouches a little lower. Foltz swings her sword from hand to hand. 3? Foltz tilts an eyebrow at Zelqa, both a challenge and an actual serious question. 2. You want to do this? 1. Zelqa grins, and that's all the answer she needs. Fight! Foltz pushes off from the ground and leaps for Zelqa, and the duel is on. Zelqua's sword comes up in a flash, blocking the thrust as he dodges away and comes around, aiming for a stab as his own. It's muscle memory. It's instinct. It's glorious. And Zelqa can feel it thrumming through his blood, stinging in his veins. He's alive, and he's fighting. It feels wonderful. It feels like returning to a long-lost friend, in the form of a hilt between his palms and a blade swinging through the air. Even with this newfound fire, it's still hard. False is a good fighter, and she's not holding back. He finds himself alternating between knowing exactly what to do and stumbling back in a panic, mind reeling frantically. "Remember your left foot!" Etho suddenly cries. And instead of unbalancing Zelqua, it helps ground him. He readjusts his back foot right as False sweeps from his side and tries to knock him off his feet. Zelqua dodges and pushes her blade away with his own. "Thanks!" he yells back, and Etho shoots him a thumbs up. All in all, the fight isn't actually that long. False manages to slip her sword under his defense and hit him in the chest with a poke that sends him sprawling. "So you have fought before," False notes as she offers a hand to Zelqua. He accepts it and stumbles onto his feet. "Your technique is a bit rusty, but it's obvious if you look closer. You're not bad." "Not bad?" Cleo hollers from the sidelines, and Zelqua glances over to see her and Etho readying their own weapons, though theirs are true weapons of metal enchantments. Etho is also inexplicably carrying a fishing rod. I wouldn't call that not bad," the fiery-haired warrior continues, swinging a battle axe from hand to hand with ease. "That was pretty damn awesome. False wasn't pulling her punches. And it isn't everyone who can hold their own against her." "You did pretty good," False admits with a grin, and slings her sword over her shoulder. "Go again?" "Let's do it," Zelqua replies, and they settle back into battle stances. Cleo is already engaged in a fight of her own, and she's not there to count them in. It doesn't really matter, they move at the same time. The day wears on. Zelqua eventually pulls off his heavy sweater and stays in the t-shirt underneath. Etho and Cleo stick around for a while, and sometimes Zelqua just wants to pause and watch them fight it out. Two raging storms that clash against each other with a fury that steals his breath. If it weren't for the fact that he knows them, he would be convinced they are dead set on hacking each other to pieces. It's a deadly, graceful thing to watch, and it's never clear who's going to win. As for Zelqua and False, it's always pretty obvious who's going to win. But Zelqua can't help noticing that each duel drags out a little longer each time, if only for a couple seconds. He's learning her tricks and learning to turn them against her. It's several hours later that they finally collapse on the sidelines and watch Etho and Cleo rage against each other on the other side of the grounds, showing no signs of letting up. False passes Zelqua a bottle of water, and he accepts it thankfully, draining the entire thing to the bottom. His shirt is soaked with sweat, and his heart refuses to calm down. Every muscle is trembling, but it feels so good, and he can't help but grin through his exhaustion. False glances over at him and laughs. "You're not bad, Birdie," she says, and Zelqua's feathers fluff up at the nickname. He chirps happily, then immediately bites down on his tongue and flushes. Oh gods, did he just... False chirps back, and he freezes, eyes going wide. He can feel the feathers puff up. "Chirr," he trills, and False bursts out laughing. The air expels from her lungs so fast she struggles to draw breath again, eyes dancing with mirth even as she wheezes. "What?" he asks immediately. "What is it? What did I say?" Nothing, False finally gasps, but she's still laughing. It's just really cute how you reacted to hearing another avian. That trill was nothing short of ecstatic. "Oh." His cheeks flush again, but False doesn't seem to notice it. Instead, she catches her breath and pulls out her communicator, checking her messages. Message from Scar asking when you're going to get back. Gods, he's really a mother hen, isn't he? Oh, missed a call from Doc? Wonder what he wants. Mind if I call him back? Go for it. Foles clicks something, and a ringtone sounds as she waits for Doc to pick up. It only rings a few times before there's a click on the other end. Hey Doc, what's up? Hello, I was wondering if Zelqua's nearby? Zelqua stiffens and Foles glances over at him, then settles back on her hand and fixes the communicator with a flat look. Even though Doc can't see it. He's right here. And can hear you, she says coolly. What do you want? It's a bit straightforward, but that's just how Foles rolls. And Zelqua appreciates the support, especially since he doesn't quite know what to think of Doc yet, even with their somewhat hesitant truce. Well, hello, Zelqua. I was wondering if you'd like to assist me with one of my redstone machines. What's it for? Zelqua inquires, leaning in closer to the device. He knows from experience with Mambo's mechanisms that no one should want him around Redstone. But he's intrigued anyways. Well, if it goes well, it should disrupt the universe's time-space continuum for a few minutes. And if it doesn't go well, then it'll not only disrupt the continuum, but the very fabric of the code that makes up the worlds. Foles doesn't seem too concerned with that, and neither is Zelqua, because it sounds freaking cool. Maybe Doc isn't so bad. Sounds awesome. I'm in, he says, and Doc's thunder rumbling laugh sounds through the comm speakers. Doc swings by within the next 10 minutes, and Zelqua waves goodbye to Cleo and Etho, who are also packing up for the day. Give me a call whenever you want to spar again, Birdie, Foles calls after him, and Zelqua shoots her a thumbs up before spreading his wings and leaping into the air, Doc close behind with his elytra. I hope Foles didn't go too hard on you, Doc rumbles from his left, and Zelqua flips around to look at him as they glide away from the training grounds. She's quite the fighter. Apparently I used to be too, Zelqua replies, and he doesn't miss the spark of interest that lights up Doc's biological eye. You're remembering? No, not necessarily. Zelqua catches an air current and barrel rolls over Doc, ending up on his other side. Just muscle memory. I used to fight a lot, I think. Like riding a bike, Doc muses, and catches the curious look that Zelqua shoots him, and clarifies. Once you learn something, your body never forgets, even if your mind did. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like that for other things too. I used to go flying with someone, Zelqua says aloud, remembering the familiar feel of playing chicken with Foles midair. I don't know who it was, though. My condolences. It's fine. They both know it's not, but Doc doesn't push him, and the rest of the flight is spent in silence. They touch down behind Doc's base, which is enormous and filled with redstone contraptions. Zelqua's not even surprised. Behind the base is a monstrosity that he's scared to even breathe next to. If Doc's plan is to create a machine that will defy the gods, then by the void, he's certainly done it. Zelqua knows close to nothing about redstone, but Doc doesn't seem to mind. He does seem to enjoy having company, and Zelqua is happy to scramble around the machine and tweak the repeaters and observers. Admittedly, he breaks more redstone than he fixes, but maybe that's what the machine needs. Doc talks as they work, telling Zelqua about projects, or mechanics, or just anything that comes to mind. He seems to direct a lot of his words at himself, sometimes trailing off into another language that is just as crackly and rumbly as his voice. It's nice. It's somewhat relaxing, actually. And Zelka finds that he enjoys listening to Doc's low voice and the barely audible hiss of redstone. At some point, Doc waves him down and regards the machine as a whole. Hands on his hip and coat stained with a lot more dust than when they first got here. I think that should do it, he finally says, and pulls a small stone button from his inventory, digging it into the side of the machine and connecting it to the delicate redstone wiring. He steps back and motions to the button. Would you like to do the honors? He doesn't even have to ask twice. Zelka darts forward and jams his hand on the button, scrambling back just as fast when the machine comes to life with a chunk and a whir. For a moment, it only hums. Then, deep within the mechanical beast, something fires, something else creaks, and then the entire thing shifts with a groan. A pause. Silence. I guess it didn't work, Doc says, and he sounds immeasurably disappointed. Boom! An explosion rockets up into the sky with a billow of angry black smoke. And Zelka jerks his hands up to hide his face as shrapnel bounces off of his arms and wings. Doc's mechanical arm wraps firmly around his waist, and he's practically carried out of the explosion radius by the creeper. They take shelter behind a small outcropping as the screech of metal against metal and rock colliding against stone fills the air. Is the server going to crash? Zelka asks frantically. He raises his voice to be heard over the chaos. Doc peers over their makeshift shelter, then ducks down again as a chunk of rubble goes flying over his head. Unless Exuma notices we're about to tear a couple chunk-sized hole down to bedrock and shuts it down, Doc replies, sounding impossibly calm for the situation. That sounds like a yes. Just give him oh, there we go. The explosion cuts off so abruptly it feels like he's gone deaf, left behind in the ringing silence. Zelka risks a glance over the outcropping and feels his breath catch in his throat. The machine has stopped its meltdown, smoke dissipating as the air hangs heavy with code, practically shimmering with commands that concentrate around the redstone disaster. Zelka can see them even without opening his eyes, though he's unsure if Doc can. He risks a glance at the engineer, whose mechanical eyes whirling quietly. He probably can. Zelka wouldn't put it past him at this point. Exuma's going to be a bit miffed, I think, Doc says casually, and Zelka winces. Whoops, he offers, and Doc roars with laughter. Exuma drums his fingers on the desk and draws in a few deep breaths, listening as his mask filters out the heavy overworld air into something he can breathe. It tastes somewhat flat on his tongue, distorted by the mechanisms. He should probably take a trip to the end soon, spend a day or two on the floating islands, and let his lungs breathe in the crisp void air. But it's not easy to leave his server behind, even for just a few days. Just this afternoon, Doc nearly crashed half the world with another of his convoluted redstone machines, and Exuma had barely managed to shut it down a mere moment before disaster. When he visited the redstone engineer to give him a warning, he'd been surprised to see Zelka bouncing around the decimated machine as well, happily chirping to Doc and tossing down bits and bobs he tore off the sides. To Exuma, it looked like the Watcher was doing more harm than good, but Doc didn't seem to mind, stubbornly diving headfirst into the melted inner workings of the machine to figure out what went wrong. I'm glad to see you two are getting along, but try to keep your laws of the universe defying escapades to a minimum, Exuma had told them, and had given him a cheerful salute that informed the admin that he was going to happily disregard every warning thrown in his direction and continue with his work. Sorry, X, Zuckutt had said from behind Doc's back, but his wide eyes and barely restrained grin indicated that he wasn't very sorry at all. Exuma couldn't find it in him to be mad. Better than him actually apologizing for something that Doc does on a weekly basis. I went and talked to the Watcher like you said. Did you have to do it anyways? Exuma complained as soon as Zuckutt was out of earshot. Doc shrugged, stuck his hands in his pocket, and smiled. It took you a few days. Anyways, I was bored. Exuma left them alone after that, and only now can he admit to himself that he doesn't really mind that much, as long as he keeps an eye on Doc's section of the server and a hand on the code. Nothing too earth-shattering is going to happen under his watch. Anyways, it's good to see Zuckutt and Doc getting along. Thinking about that brings Exuma right back to what he'd been thinking about in the first place, and he sighs. His thoughts have been running in circles for the better part of the evening, and he can't seem to make them stop. His comm pings loudly and he leans over to check it, struggling to suppress a yawn. He smiles when he reads the message. Ren the dog. Hey dude, wanted to ask how you're doing. We haven't spoken in a while. Exuma Void. I'm alright. Thanks, Ren. Exuma Void. Thinking about Zelka. Ren the dog. Ah, gotcha. Anything specific? Exuma Void. I wish we could find out where he came from. Exuma Void. He doesn't even know what his real name is. If he has any family. Exuma Void. I'd like to find out, but I don't even know where to start. Ren the dog. You know, that just reminded me about something. Huh? Ren the dog. Give me a call. Let's talk. Ren picks up after the first ring and immediately starts talking in the rambling, musing way he usually does when he's trying to remember something. So, I met this guy at MCC a while ago. Yeah, named Martin, IGN, in the Littlewood. I don't think he's got an active server at the moment, but he's got pretty good connections. He mentioned he got his friend a while back, something of a researcher. He told me that she specializes in old beings and code and stuff. Zuma sits up and leans forward, barely daring to hope. You think she's got information on Watchers? He asks, and Ren hums in confirmation on the other side of the call. It's worth a shot. I can pass on Martin's contact if you want. You can reach out to him. That would be amazing, Ren. Thank you. No problem, man. Glad I could help. Sorry I didn't think of it earlier. Don't worry about it. What's important is that you thought of it now. Exuma glances at the clock and surmises that it's still early enough to message this Martin person. If you could send Martin's contact, I'll see if I can reach him today. I'll talk to you later, alright? Sounds good, X. I'll see you around. Ren hangs up, and a moment later, Xuma's comm paints with a new message. He copies the contact and opens up his admin panels, flicking over to the off-world messaging system. There's a high possibility that the lead would be a dead end, but it's all he's got to go off of, and he doesn't know what else to try. Exuma holds his breath as he sends the message and leans back, crossing his fingers. Nothing left to do but wait. Off-world messages. Exumavoid to Into Littlewood. Exumavoid. Hello, Martin. My name is Exuma. I am the current admin of Hermitcraft. Ren gave me your contact so I can message you. I hope you don't mind. I heard that you know someone who researches old code and beings. Would it be possible for me to contact this player? I'm hoping they'll have some information that I've been searching for. Thank you. Exuma. In the Littlewood. Hi, Exuma. Don't worry. Ren's told me all about you. No worries about reaching out. I can pass on my friend's contact, but I have to warn you, she spends a lot of her time void traveling and between worlds. It might take her a while to get back to you. Exuma Void. That's perfectly fine. Thank you very much. Littlewood. You got it. I'd love to meet you and the rest of the Hermits sometime. Maybe we'll run into each other next MCC. Exuma Void. I hope so. Thank you again. You've been a great help. Off-world messages. Exumavoid to Pearlescent Moon. Exumavoid. Hello, Pearlescent, or Moon. Apologies if you go by something else. I spoke to your friend Martin, and he told me that you collect information on old beings. I was wondering if you have any information on beings called Watchers. Anything you could share with me about them would be greatly appreciated. If you'd like to meet in person, allow me to extend an invitation onto Hermitcraft or a private world if you'd prefer. Thank you. Off-world messages. Pearlescent Moon to Exumavoid. Pearlescent Moon. Pearl is fine. Sorry I didn't get back to you. I was out of comms range for a while, and I know plenty about Watchers, but first I want you to come tell me why you want to know about them. I'll come to Hermitcraft so we can talk. Just name a time. I'll be there. Zelko wakes with a gasp, shooting upright with his wings splayed wide as he grasps at the covers around him, desperately trying to ground himself as his whole body shakes, shakes, shakes. He was dreaming of people he thinks he once knew, who said his real name, but he couldn't hear it. The word gone before it could even reach his ears. A name sips on the tip of his tongue, but no matter how hard he tries, he can't choke it out. He can't imagine the face that might match it. He struggles silently for a moment, trying to cling to the memories that are already dissipating from his mind, like ice in the sun. The harder he tries to hold on to them, the faster they slip away. And soon, he's lost, then completely left only with the thought of a name that itches at his brain. Someone he might have loved like family. He can't even remember their name. Zelko wraps his arms around his shaking body and curls up in his nest again, hiding in his wings and screwing his eyes shut like he'll chase away the name that still nags at him. One that he should remember. It takes him a long time to fall asleep again. And that is the end of chapter 15.